get into the Group B preview and betting guide. Again, we're looking at how these teams, how Spain, Croatia, Italy, and Albania. Geez, what a tough group. Group of death, of course, even Albania, who everyone says has no shot at all, and they probably don't. But they advanced in style, so we'll give them their due as well. But we're going to look at each of these teams, look at how they got here, preview their squads, look at the range of outcomes, and look at some betting tips along the way. Please do rate and review this episode, whether you're watching on YouTube, listening to your podcast, whatever it might be. If you go to the full betting preview, if you like and subscribe and comment, you could win a Euro jersey of your choosing if we get to 1,000 likes. So please do join us in that. Let's dive into these teams here. Before we do that, actually, let's dive into the betting markets and take a quick look at what the sportsbook think might happen. Again, this is valuable information, not if you're just looking to make bets, but also just to kind of understand what people expect to take place. So if you look at this group, again, those minus numbers, the more negative the number, the more likely it is to happen. The higher the number, the less likely it is to happen. So we see here Spain, Italy, and Croatia, minus 1,000, minus 500, and minus 300 to qualify for the round of 16. That means that we should expect all three to get to the next round. There would be no value betting it because you would have to lay down at minus 300. You'd have to pay $30 just to win $10. Now you would get your $30 back, but essentially you're paying a lot of money and not getting that much back. Whereas Albania at plus 300, if you would bet $10, you would walk away with 40. Anyway, we can see that Vegas or the sportsbook, whatever, projects Spain to be the group winner. Then most likely it's Italy, Croatia, and then followed by Albania. One of the bets here that I'm going to tease right now is Italy in the quarterfinals at plus 100, I think is a huge value. And we're going to talk about that in just a little bit. You can see that Spain is kind of expected to be able to make it to that quarterfinal, semifinal. Italy, we should expect them to make it to about the quarterfinal stage. Croatia is kind of a toss-up, probably round of 16 type thing, and Albania likely not to make it out at all. Let's jump into Spain. What an exciting team this is. Again, I think a lot of these really interesting teams that maybe aren't at the top echelon of European football right now have this new wave of youngsters that are coming up that are super, super exciting. I'm talking about guys like Yamal, but we're going to get into the players. Spain was a semifinalist in the Euro 2020s. They lost to Italy, who would win the whole thing in penalties. They qualified in their group, Group A, in first place. They had one loss, a surprising loss to Scotland early on in the campaign, where Scotland they were just so informed. We talked about them in our Group A video if you want to go listen to that. But other than that, Spain was untouchable. They averaged over 3 goals a game, giving up about only 0.7. So absolutely great. They really do spread the goals around. Both Morata and Joselu had 4 goals apiece. Spain is one of those crazy teams where, like, as we look at this roster, not so much in defense, but when we get to their attack in midfield, the problem is that you have so much talent, it's difficult to know how to piece it together. At goalkeeper, David Raya was absolutely incredible for Arsenal. Yes, he had a few gaffes from time to time. I am an Arsenal fan, so I did yell at him many times. But overall, he was phenomenal. You look at the defense here. Grimaldo, man, what a season for Bayer Leverkusen coming over on that free transfer. Where I kind of see a bit of hesitation and question is maybe along the center backs, Lenormand and Laporte, especially Laporte playing in Saudi Arabia. A little bit nervous about what that could be like for Spain. But you go to their midfield, and there is just so much to like. Rodri, one of the absolute best in the world. You just go down this list of players, and there are so many people to like. Pedri, another phenomenal player. You know he's going to get his. You look at the forwards, I'm curious to see how they line up. I heard many people talk how Nico Williams is really going to break out this tournament, and I agree. Him and Lamine Yamal, if given the opportunity on the wings, could be deadly. And then I think Morata would be in a great opportunity, a great position to shine for Spain. I think he's very underrated. He's been so good for Atletico Madrid. Of course, Joselu scores incredible goals. He scores important goals as he did with Real Madrid. So super interesting to see what would happen. Again, that defense is the only kind of downside that I see, but you've got some of the greatest players in the world at other positions. I think they're going to do well. I think best case scenario, I think within the realm of possibilities, I think Spain could win the whole thing. I think what's most likely, though, is a quarterfinal or semifinal exit, depending on who they play. Again, I'm going to get into my actual predictions, and I do have Spain making a bit of a run. I think if they don't get past the round of 16, I think that would be a very disappointing tournament. I think people expect them to be first or second in this group, win their round of 16 game, and then in the quarterfinals, it's about the matchups that they could be favored there as well. Let's move on to Croatia. Croatia lost to Spain, we were just talking about, in the round of 16 in the previous Euros. But last year in 2023, they were second in the Nations League for UEFA. And I know not everyone cares so much about the Nations League. They beat the Netherlands in the semifinal game, which was devastating to me, of course. And of course, they famously were in the 2018 World Cup finals. Croatia has been doing real well. They punch above their weight all the time. They are a team that plays collectively in the sum. Like I said earlier, the sum is greater than its parts, but the parts are pretty damn good too. Let's take a look at this Croatia team. Of course, we've got Vardiol, one of the absolute standout defensemen in the world, playing at Manchester City. Absolute beast. Sutalo playing for Ajax and Sosa as well. Both, while the team struggled, they both have really progressed in their career. I think it's been a good move for them to be there. Both solid players. Where you're going to see a bunch of names that you might recognize a little bit more is in that midfield and in that attack. And again, some of these guys are getting a bit older. Luka Modric, usually isn't playing a full 90 minutes for Real Madrid, and I don't think he should be doing that for Croatia either. That being said, they do have a lot of other talent. Kovacic, of course, for Manchester City. Brozovic has been playing it for Al Nassr. He's back in the fold, and I think could be very important. Ivan Perisic, playing in Croatia now, but playing super well. He's been injured for a bit, but coming into form now, I think could be an exciting player if they can find form, which for some reason Croatia always seems to do. Kramaric, of course, did lead them in scoring in the qualifiers with 4 goals, and we can expect to see him very involved throughout this campaign. I think the worst case scenario for Croatia, and something that I could see happening given their shaky qualifying, I could see them being grouped. I could see them not making it out at all. That would be the worst case scenario. Not at all what I expect. I expect them to make it to the round of 16, get out of the group, and then maybe make it to the quarterfinals just because it is Croatia. I think the best case scenario would be the semis. I really can't see them making it to the finals again. That would be absolutely crazy. My ratio of beverage to where we're at in this is not going well for me. We carry on with Italy. Italy is an exciting, confusing, frustrating team. If you're a fan, you love them and you hate them because they either qualify for the Euro 2020s and win the whole thing, or they miss out on the last 2 World Cups. If you're not a fan of Italy, it's great sometimes because you beat them and they're terrible, and other times they just destroy your team. You're like, what just happened? They're not supposed to be good. It's really difficult to know what's going to happen with this Italy team. Now, they have a new coach in Spalletti. He just helped Napoli win the Scudetto last year, which is insane. absolutely phenomenal for that Napoli team. And now he is here with his Italian team. And I think they are ready to kind of make a push. I know it's been a rough journey. You look at how they got here. It was a tough group. They had England. They also had the Ukraine, who we're going to talk about in a little bit. And North Macedonia is not terrible. They did qualify for the last Euros. So not a terrible group. They were runners up, going 4-2-2. Both losses to England. So again, you can see they can punch up and beat some of the not punch up, but they are maybe the bottom of tier one, top of tier two in European football. And I'm curious to see what happens in these Euros because they have a lot of exciting players, albeit not the same style as maybe we have had in the past, where some of the all-time greats like Cellini have left us. But Bastoni, I think, is very, very good for Inter. DeMarco and Darmian as well. A lot of Inter defense here. Let's go. Of course, Donnarumma, PSG's goalie, is one of the best goalies in the world. So always love to have that when you can. Their midfield and attack is where I think I disagree with a lot of the analysts that I've been listening to, where there's a lot of disappointment in the quality and the skill in this Italian squad. I disagree completely. I really like Barella. I think he's one of the best midfielders in Italy, which puts him up there with some of the best in the world. Frattesi led Italy in scoring. He's very good. Cristante for Roma was very, very good this year as well. Jorginho didn't get a whole lot of minutes at Arsenal at the end once Partey was healthy. But before then, he played so much, and he was really, really solid. He was someone Mikel Arteta could really depend on. I think when looking at the forwards, Kameka, yeah, I think he's going to have a pretty dang good group stage and beyond. I think a lot of people, because he plays at Atalanta, don't know who he is outside of, people who watch the Europa League and Serie A, which isn't the average American. But Atalanta was a great team this year. They won the Europa League against Bayer Leverkusen, their only loss. So yes, Kamaka, I think, is going to have a great tournament. Chiesa is another guy who I am super excited about. He always seems to shine in the spotlight in these competitions. He is the man for Juventus. I think he's going to be the man for Italy. He's going to have a great tournament. I am very excited for this Italian team. I think I might be a little too optimistic, but that's okay. I'm going to get over it. I think the best case scenario for Italy, I mean, not say tournament champions, right? They're the defending champions. Clearly, it's in the range of outcomes. They still have the quality. I think the most expected outcome for them is the quarterfinals, maybe semifinals if they get lucky. Again, with this new format, it's really hard to know who teams are going to be playing. I do like the path for Italy, regardless of if they're first or second in this group, which I expect them to be. I think worst case scenario, if they somehow get grouped, if they somehow lose to Croatia and Spain and only beat Albania and then don't make it through, it's in the range of outcomes, and that would be the worst case scenario. I've been talking a lot here, so I'm taking a quick dip. All right, let's talk about Albania. As I said, this is the group of death in Albania, and everyone's line stays no chance. But of the four teams in this group, Albania is one of the two to actually win their group. They won it ahead of both Czech Republic, Czechia, and Poland. But neither of those teams are great. You look at the other teams in there, Moldova, Faroe Islands, not exactly a tough path. You add in the fact that they only average 1.5 goals a game. That's the fewest of any first place team to qualify in the group. Hard to really have a whole lot of expectations for this team. Really a case of I think they're just happy to be here, and I'm happy for them to be here. They do have some really fun players. It would be really exciting to see them do something but it's really hard to imagine it happening. I'm sorry, I just kept on choking. YouTube I was taking a water break. It went poorly for me, and I'm still recovering. All is well, don't you worry. Albania, you look at their team, I'm not going to lie to you. They have a couple of guys that play in some of the big leagues, Brentford, then you have Atalanta, Lazio, so Spain with Rayo Vallecano, and then a bunch of, I'm not going to lie to you when looking at this squad, not a whole lot of household names in this group, but you can see they do have some players that play in some of the big leagues in Italy, Spain, in England. They're at least up against the competition on a regular basis. Now, in their midfield and attack, there are some names that you might be a bit more familiar with. Slani from Inter Milan is one of the up-and-coming superstars in all of Italian soccer. He is so good and a joy to watch. I think he's going to be really good. Bajrami as well for Sassuolo has had a really good campaign this year. And Broha for Chelsea, he got a little bit of playing time in the beginning of the year, not so much later. Be interesting to see. He's had a lot of hype around his name at times. Be interesting to see what he can do as the focal point of this offense. I think the best case scenario for them, honestly, is being a third in this group, not being in the bottom. Worst case would be 0 points, just getting beat all the way through. I think they would be happy if they would be able to steal a point, either get a win or a draw along the way. I think that would be a successful campaign for them. Because honestly, the group they're in is just so difficult. You look here at the betting group odds for them in their 2 games here against Italy, plus 750 to win, which means, it's not going to happen. Plus 500, also a huge number against Croatia. Spain expected to win their games, although that Italy game, I think, is pretty interesting. You look at that plus 225 number, and that kind of leads us into my bets for this group. So my bets for Group B, I'm going to start with Spain versus Italy, draw at plus 225. Spain will be very happy to sit on the ball, play their tiki-taka, not actually push forward too much, and just see what happens, knowing that they have Albania up next, which will likely be a guaranteed 3 points. I think they'll be happy to play for a draw. Italy, on the other hand, I think has the potential to play with anyone, given that roster we just talked about. So I just like the value on this. I think, last time they played, it went to overtime. So I think we could see, in the group phase alone, of course, but we can see a similar result here. I also think Italy is going to make it to the quarterfinals. This gets a bit complicated looking at the table, but say Italy wins the group. If they win the group, which I'm not expecting them to do, but if they do win the group, they would play the third place team in Group D, E, or F. So they get a third place team. That's fantastic. If they're runners up, they would play the runner up from Group E, which would be so confusing. I had to do a retake. Good thing I have a pencil and paper here. So if they win the group, like I said, they'd play third place team. If they're runners up, they would play the runner up from Group A, which would likely be either Switzerland or Hungary, because Germany will probably win that group. So whichever one it ends up being, a third place team or Switzerland or Hungary, they're going to be favored to win that right quite a bit. So I like this at plus 100. My final bet, Albania to lose all their group games. I think being in the group of death means that everyone is going to try to beat the weakest team because they need those 3 points. If you don't win that game, if you drop 2 points to that bottom team, good luck getting out of the group. So Albania is going to be up against it, and I think it's going to be rough for them. So let's look at my projected finish. Again, this is based on not only the sportsbook odds, but also some simulations that we have run, and then also just my own analysis. So I think Spain and Italy both top the group with 7 points, but Spain gets ahead on goal difference. Croatia comes in third place, and Albania gets 0 points. That is how I see it. I am curious to hear your thoughts. Please do comment in the comments. That's a really smart thing to say. Again, you can find all of our videos over at Ready Bet Action on YouTube. You can find us on your favorite podcast. Listen to the other episodes where we got into the other groups and our betting preview. Again, subscribe to the YouTube channel, like, comment, all those good things, and you could win a Euro jersey of your choosing.